Okay, and we're recording. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our seventh in the series of NYSAWLA webinars. I really want to thank you all for your continued participation. I hope that our participants have been getting as much out of these webinars as I have. I feel really blessed to have the presenters that we've had work with us because I think they've been able to share some great things. And I think that tonight will be no exception to that. I would like to present our co-presenters for this evening, Ms. Trish Sihksnel and Ms. Kristen Wilkens from the Cold Spring Harbor School District. In the chat, they have put a link to the Padlet and a link to their presentation. And I am going to hand the floor over to them and let them introduce themselves a little more and tell us a little bit about the wonderful webinar we're going to see tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trish. I'm Kristen. Thank you for joining us this evening. Yeah, we were really excited to learn from Jen that we have a pretty nice variety of people that are going to be joining us today with a variety of languages and backgrounds and quite a bit of diversity in terms of their teaching experience. So that's really great. Kristen and I have both been working in Cold Spring Harbor for about 7 years now. So we'll share a little bit about what our journey was like with you guys. All right, so tonight we're just going to be going through a few different strategies and mention to you what we've developed here in Cold Spring Harbor in order to meet the needs of our diverse learners and to help them to reach their IEP goals. We're going to share some of the tools and the methods and the best practices that we've found from our experience in our program here. All right. So we kind of wanted to give you a true experience of what it's like to be in our classroom. So every single day when the students come in, we do have them set up with this schedule on a few different platforms in our school. I think it's important to kind of set the scene a little bit for you. The students have had the opportunity to attend school full time since November. Not all of them have. Some remained hybrid, some were fully remote. So we are still definitely balancing all of that as well. But I do want to share that they did have that opportunity to come in November. So when the students come into our class, they have this schedule up every single day, and it will say today's schedule. Of course, this is all in the target language. We just figured there'd probably be a variety of languages, language teachers here with us tonight, so we wanted to keep it in English so you can really get the idea. So today's schedule, ICT in the World Language Classroom. Right off the bat, ICT. Does anybody know what ICT stands for?
Yes.
Nesfield.
It's something I've been trying to get desperately in my district. We have ICT in every other subject except language. So it is integrated content. Is that what they're calling it in your district?
Integrated co-teaching.
Co-teaching. Thank you.
Exactly. So that's what Kristen and I are. We're co-teachers in one classroom, and we'll share a little bit about our background in a bit. So here's what our goals are for you guys tonight. And we do have this can-do statement up on the board every single day from the time the students walk in. And we do really feel that that's important to have that up, ready to go before they get in the door. Of course, does technology fail? Yes. Does the Zoom lag? Sometimes. But when we have this up for them, it really kind of sets the tone for what they can expect. And especially since so many of our learners are suffering from anxiety disorders and they don't all have that executive functioning that we may have, having this outline with their can-do statements on the board really helps them to get on target and focus and remain on task. So today's goals, you all will be able to, Ms. Wilkens,
identify important tools to use in class, modify materials to meet various needs, differentiate materials, goals, and instruction, and apply concept to my own teaching style. So we do read through each of these can-dos every day and then just give any extra explanation if the kids need the clarification. And then moving on to our homework, which is to ask us any questions you may have via Padlet. So again, you can go into the chat, and then as things pop up, please feel free to post your question or comment, and then we'll visit that at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, so Kristen has on her device, she'll have the Padlet up, so we will be taking a look as we go through. And of course, please feel free, if you are new to Zoom, if you don't typically use it, just so you know, clicking participants on the bottom, you'll be able to click next to your hand, next to your name, a raise hand. We'll literally see a little hand with your name on it, and we can call on you. So please feel free at any point to raise your hand. If we don't see it, politely interject, as we always say in class. So one of the first things that we do after we've gone through the can-do statements for the day is we do give the students time to take out their agenda books and to write that down. Now, some are writing in an agenda book, some are writing on their phone. We really try to tell students whatever works for you. And that's an important skill for them to really develop and to learn. So we ask them, however you think you'll find it most accessible, please do that. And we do walk around, make sure that they've all written down whatever it is that we're asking them to do. We do, of course, post it online as well, and we'll share a little bit about that later. And of course, no presentation is complete without your Bitmojis. As our amazing chairperson, Sani, can attest to, perhaps the Bitmoji queen herself.
Yes. Has everybody seen our Bitmoji department photo? Okay, all right. We'll make sure you get that out.
There's a NYSAWLA board one, I believe. It's really top notch. Yes, outstanding. All right, so Kristen shared that. We'll skip over. All right, now the next thing that we have are questions of the day. So, of course, again, all in the target language, and this is how we really seek to engage our learners and increase the participation right from the beginning. So we explain to the students day one that we'll have these questions up each day when they come in, and we're taking data, and we explain the data taking system with them. So we have a clipboard. Might seem a little old school, but we have a seating chart, which of course we all need now for our contact tracing, but it kind of lended itself nicely to our setup. And what we'll do is we'll take data each time they attempt to answer. So it really gives us a quick at a glance look of exactly how much they're engaging. And then we can kind of hone in on those learners who aren't maybe meeting or exceeding the expectation that we might have for them. We'll update their participation grade because, to be honest, we have to really think that, you know, what motivates our students. For many of them, it's a grade, and that's okay. I think you really have to kind of use that to your advantage. So we'll update their grade on our parent portal so that they can kind of see where they're at in terms of their participation. But once they get into the mode of knowing that the clipboard's coming out, even if a management technique that we do, if there's talking or distracted behavior that we need to redirect, we could literally have the pencil upside down, start erasing, and it's really setting that tone, I think, from the beginning that kind of helps the students understand what exactly we're doing in terms of this data taking, and it helps us so much to engage them.
Yeah, and also too, it's actually remarkable how it encourages some of the students who are hesitant to participate because they're able to see some of the stronger participants, day in and day out, be the first to answer. And then I think it helps build their confidence, like, oh, they can give that response, I can do that too. So it really helps us get responses from the entire class.
Absolutely. And how you have to do that with these type of learners with varying needs is you have to scaffold. Appropriate scaffolding in an ICT classroom, in any classroom, but particularly here, you have to scaffold appropriately for them. So we'll offer a question like, who is part of our program? We'll scaffold a portion of the question or of the response that we're trying to elicit in order to kind of give them that boost of confidence that they might need. And as you can see, we've got it set up, and it seems like something small, but it's really kind of big. We have it set up so that we can either put in the scaffolding or take it away. So that's really important because that allows the students to feel comfortable and confident that we have the supports ready for them if they need it, and they can kind of jump in and use that. So what it might look like for our class would be, who's part of our program? Students in grades 7 and 8. Okay, so that would be the answer to the question. Now, since Ms. Wilkens answered the question, I'm going to give her a tally mark. We just use a really simple tally system, and we update these seating charts a lot, so we can really take a look at how we're doing. All right, and the next question we might ask something like, which courses are offered? If we didn't have any answers from any of our participants, they need a little more scaffolding. We'll throw that in. We offer this in Spanish 1A and
1B.
Exactly. So how that looks for us at Cold Spring Harbor, we're a 7 through 12 building, grades 7 and 8. So we have essentially Spanish 1 divided into 2 years, Spanish 1A at 7 and Spanish 1B in 8th grade. All right, so when do students begin studying language in Cold Spring Harbor? We begin with FLES. Woo! Yes. So we are lucky and very fortunate that our students have been exposed to Spanish only. We do offer French and Spanish at the high school, or at the junior senior high school, excuse me. But we do offer FLES in Spanish with exploratory units in French at the elementary level. So how did this all come about? Any thoughts on what the answer might be? We determined there was a great,
Some of you may be experiencing this in your districts.
Absolutely. Why would students need a double support team in language?
Because so many of them get it in their other classes.
Exactly, Christine, yes. You just earned some participation points, by the way. Excellent. Bravo. Yeah, absolutely. So there was a great need for it, right? A lot of these students are, they're experiencing their core classes, as Jen mentioned, and then they come to language and that support's gone. Why is that? I think that's a really important question that we as world language educators really need to start asking people. We need to ask our administrators that. Why is that? I think 9 times out of 10, no one will have a good answer for you on that. And we were 0 times out of 10. Yes, exactly, Jen. So that's kind of where this all started. I was in my first year at Cold Spring Harbor, and I really saw that there was a great need for this. I was fortunate enough to kind of brainstorm with my administrator at the time about what I wanted to pursue in terms of a master's degree. I knew I wanted to do something in special education, and we discussed the possibility of having almost like a pilot ICT program to start off, and it clearly worked out well. Here we still are. We have a lot of happy students.
And we piloted just with the 8th grade co-teach to start. So Trish and I started with that many moons ago, and now we're here today with both the 7th and 8th grade. So it's really nice that the district believed in us and gave us the opportunity to run both, and we really can see the progress when they enter high school language.
Absolutely. Another area of need that this was determined from was that parents shouldn't feel that their child should be language exempt. Just because someone has a learning disability doesn't mean that they can't learn a second language. In fact, some of our students really thrive in our classroom, so it truly can enhance their transcript as opposed to possibly removing something that could help them on their path to post-high school learning. And one final question, how has the program benefited students? We've had a 100% passing rate for our checkpoint A, which is amazing. And our enrollment in the upper levels has really, I think, if we didn't have this program in place, I think we're really building the foundation for these students to want to continue learning. They feel that they're confident enough to do it and that they can do it. And they see the value in it. And I think as a department, we've worked really hard to kind of set the precedent that we're all here to support you, even when you leave the ICT program in the 8th grade or in the 9th grade.
And I think, Trish, really the key there is their confidence. So we're really able to help them build their confidence and that they're able to develop a love of the language, and they want to continue. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to continue so I can get to that checkpoint B exam. It's like, I want to finish high school. I want to continue learning the language and the culture. And it's really been phenomenal.
It has, absolutely. So as I kind of briefly mentioned to you, so how our program is set up is I am dually certified in Spanish and special education. So I am technically the special education teacher in the classroom.
And I am the Spanish teacher in the classroom.
It is obviously amazing to have two content area teachers in one classroom is phenomenal. And I would really strongly recommend, because, you know, Jen had mentioned that there's some novice teachers on this presentation tonight. If you're thinking about a master's degree or what you might want to explore, please consider studying special education. I studied it at St. Joseph's College. I also did my undergrad there as well. I cannot say enough amazing things about the special education master's program there. Just throwing it out there that I had a really great experience there. And when you're a language educator who's duly certified in special education, it really makes you marketable. It'll help your students, even if you never teach a technically ICT program, it's going to help you regardless. So you might want to consider that. And we spoke to you already a bit about what our program kind of looks like. So, you know, we've shared this with you if you want to take another look at that. But again, our program in the ICT is grades 7 and 8. The students have it every day, obviously, of course, for 5 days a week. And the two of us are in the same classroom at once.
And the important thing we do want to mention, though, is that in the FLES program, it starts in grades 2 through 6, and they have twice a week for 40 minutes. But what happens is that through different programs that they have at the elementary level, they're coming in with varying levels of exposure to our 7th grade class. So that's really where we have to take the time, especially at the start of the year, to get a feel for where the students are at and make sure that we model and modify our material to meet the needs of everybody. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Kristen just said, you know, that last bullet is really the most important thing. The classes follow the same unit of study as their counterparts. It's just modified workload and materials. That's the name of the game, is modification. So that's what we hope to really bring you some strategies for tonight. All right, so the top 5 things that we could really think of for our students in an ICT classroom. This is adapted partially from Marcia Tate. She is a middle level educator who has a series of books. My favorite from hers is Shouting Won't Grow Dendrites. And she's a really engaging speaker if you ever have the time to take a look at her stuff. But she suggests you need to get to know each student. First and foremost, of course, that's what you've got to do. We give a survey in the beginning of the year. We usually like to administer it via Google Forms. And for an ICT class, we want to hone in on trying to help the students determine how they learn best so that we can help them on their path to proficiency. So we want to know things in this survey. Some questions are, you know, just tell us a little bit about yourself so that we can hone into their interests. We also might ask, like, fill in the blank. I really like it when the teacher, I really don't like it when my teacher, and so on. And you can really learn a lot from responses like that.
And I think that that's really crucial to find out from the students what they learn best from and what they don't, because we want to make sure that we're creating the safest environment for them to feel confident. And if we can pinpoint some things that occur that we want to steer clear of, we will do that just to make sure that we get the most out of our students during the time that we have them.
Absolutely. So we also, number 2, we want to create a physical and virtual, of course, environment that's conducive to learning. So we're going to actually take you on a little tour of our classroom so you can get a feel for what it kind of looks like. we really feel that setting up the classroom so that it's super bright, happy, positive, and engaging is so important. So we try to keep it, thematic. We'll change it up for them. But just to show you kind of some of our student work, display the student work. They work hard on it. When you work hard on something, you want to show the students their work is valued. What they've done is valued. So these are some word cloud projects that we have the students do with adjectives, things that make them who they are. Because we also have to remember we're educating the whole child. We're not just teaching them Spanish, French, Chinese. We're teaching them how to be global citizens, and that's so important. So we keep it light, we keep it bright, we keep it positive, and you'd really be surprised what a difference setting up your classroom can make in terms of keeping your students engaged. We also have, a few must-haves. We've got some anchor chart paper, which seems like something small, but remember, these students are coming to us, at least in our class, from an elementary level. So some of those tools that they're using are really helpful, and it provides them, I would say, a bit of comfort. When you're asking them to speak another language, think about how uncomfortable that might make an adult, right? Adults get nervous when they're asked to speak another language and they're not that confident. What about a child with a learning disability? So it's our responsibility to show them that this is inviting. This is a place where you can be who you are. You can support everyone. And that's how we work as a community. So we also have our rubrics. I don't know if you can see them. So our commitment to proficiency, and this is how we can assess them also, as well as using our clipboard that we showed you before. These are some of the ways that we can constantly remind them that we're part of a community. It requires preparation to become proficient. Also in the back, I don't know if you can see, but we do have novice low, novice mid with the can-do statements. So they can always reflect back after they've set their own goals that, of course, we've helped them set in the beginning of the year.
And one thing too, our school over the last 2 years invested in the Promethean boards. We also have our smart board. So we actually are utilizing both boards, which has been extremely helpful. If we need to break up the room, we have 2 separate boards. Even if it's just that the kids like to look in 2 different spaces, it's actually been a gift, especially during these times with the shields. So we've been really fortunate to have that.
Yeah. And, in the remote environment, it was so important for us to establish early on with the students that we'd be using breakout rooms in order for them to do, some interpersonal activities. With the chat feature, that was really important as well. They were able to give us some presentational items that maybe they couldn't because maybe they are still so novice low that they can't even produce verbally yet. Let them start with the prompt in a chat. That's okay. They have to start somewhere, and you have to be okay with that as the educator, that you need to meet them where they are and then build them on their path.
And it's been great for the students that were hybrid, because if they were in the classroom and they weren't comfortable participating, they felt comfortable using that chat feature when they were on the remote end of it. So
absolutely. And that really helped us with our participation, was allowing that flexibility, because that's what really this is all about. And of course, using different audio clips, video clips in an asynchronous environment, that was really, really helpful as well. We're going to show you some 20 strategies we have for engagement that can be used digitally, in person, wherever, in a boat, with a goat, you name it, you can do it. We'll show you that on our next slide. You need to develop a proactive management plan. Teaching your rituals, that's so important. We have so many rituals that involve song, that involve showing the can-do statements when they come in. When we're making those can-do statements, we go through the depth of knowledge chart and really try to hit each of the 4 tiers so that we can help the students to level up their participation and meet the goals of our learning targets for the day.
Yeah, we do have we do have varying levels of proficiency in our classes. So it's really important that we use that depth of knowledge chart to make sure that we are, providing enough challenge to the students who are up for it.
Absolutely. And I think by providing the students with the can-do statements in the beginning of the class, I can't say enough about how important that is. That structure, I really think, minimizes our behaviors.
Yes.
Because you've told the students what they can expect. It's nice to know what you can expect. I'm sure you're thrilled to know that at 6:30 you'll be done with this. You can move on to your next thing, and you have an idea of what you're going to learn in the remaining time that we have. So think about how you would feel when someone gives you an agenda on a faculty meeting, right? You like it. It's great, because then you kind of know. So it's really important for these students. And you have to deal proactively with your challenging behaviors. Remaining calm. Some of these are chronic behavior disorders. Of course, it's hard not to get frustrated. We all do. Of course we do. But sometimes these learners have severe disabilities that make them act the way that they do. If you're dealing with a student that is in grades 7 through 11 approximately, their dendrites aren't developed yet. They're acting in these ways because they don't know. Their minds aren't developed yet. So we've got to have that patience with them. So 20 quick ideas for student engagement. I won't go through all of them with you, but just the first one, brainstorming and discussion. We're going to talk about that more with you later when we talk about our interpersonal and interpretive and presentational strategies. But brainstorming is a great interpersonal strategy that you can use to get your students engaged. For example, if we're talking about a travel unit right now. So from the beginning, day 1, what kind of words do you need to know if you wanted to go on vacation in March? What are you going to need to know how to say? We'll create a word cloud together, brainstorm together, and then move on in discussion. Just those bits of interpersonal activities really help to improve the proficiency.
And I think it's also, it's having them draw back on their previously learned knowledge, and then it actually brings more out of them. So we really find so much value in doing that at the start of each of our units.
Absolutely, yeah. Graphic organizers, of course, that's going to be so helpful. If you look on Pinterest, there's a million amazing graphic organizers that you can use. But I think really just setting up any worksheet, whether it's on paper, whether it's on Word, you have to think so carefully about how easy is it for my students to input their ideas? How easy is it for them to interpret from this document that I'm giving them? Is the spacing enough? If you're printing it, if you've got to give a hard copy to a student, is there enough space for a student who might not have the best skills in writing? Are they going to be able to write enough here? Are the lines big enough? These are things that you would make a world of difference to a student with a learning disability. So those are things that you always want to think about. If you're sharing out a Google Doc with your students, are they going to have to erase lines, for example, that you put in for a written format? Is the information going to be easy for them to get? Are they going to be able to type easily? Those executive functioning skills that we all might take for granted just to be able to figure out and do, they all can't. So those are things that if it's too frustrating for a student to maybe type in on the document, or if they don't have enough space to write, if they can't see because your font is too much, a student who struggles academically, maybe has a learning disability, whatever it may be, they might give up. You might lose them on something as simple as that. One other thing that we love to do is music. We always have music going. We're singing all the time. And of course, that's personality. You can't leave here and go into your classroom tomorrow morning and start singing a song about the weather like we do every single day if that's not you. But maybe you'll put on some music in the background when your students are walking in. Greet them, happy Friday. That's so engaging. And that will really draw them in.
You may also have a superstar in your department that likes to record raps about their class. I don't know. I think Tara Tasani could speak to that. But you may have some people that really excel, and then you can bring them into your classroom, and it's a really nice way to just get everybody involved.
Absolutely. Yep. And role plays, all of that, charades. We're so lucky in language. I always say that, like, we can incorporate this so easily to our content area. So we're so fortunate. Take advantage of that. As far as, using technology, guided imagery, visualization, field trips, you can still do all of that in 2021. You might have to spend a little bit more time planning your lessons, but you can take your students on a virtual field trip. You can engage them. Even if your school doesn't have a ton of tech available, that's okay. You obviously do. You're on this Zoom right now. So find a way to project it. You can make it happen for your students, and they'll appreciate it.
And I think maybe the silver lining through all of this pandemic teaching is that we've had to explore these alternative options with our students. So it's nice to be able to take advantage of that and realize how it's going to enhance our teaching going forward.
Our 15th strategy, storytelling, I think is also really important as well. We like to keep our questions of the day a mix of thematic to whatever we're discussing, whatever unit we're talking about, but we also keep it to the day. We ask the students how they feel. How are you doing today? Every single day. Don't you think that that's probably the most realistic use of their language at a novice level that they might have? For example, if they're out to dinner or if they're on vacation and they're trying to engage with someone, the first thing anybody says to anyone, doesn't matter what language you speak, is, "Hi, how are you?" Wouldn't it be great if your students could respond to that question? And they can. You have to scaffold it for them. When you do that every single day and you talk about chit chat about your day, "Hi, how are you?" You are increasing your student participation. You are getting interpersonal activities. And really presentational also. The students are showing you what they know, which is amazing. All right, so we've talked a lot about our clipboard. We have a learning management system called Canvas, and it's, I would say, similar to Blackboard if you're using Blackboard at your university or Google Classroom, whatever your school is using. This is the platform that we have. We do really love it. We have had a lot of success with it. It allows us to post homework, post grades, post assignments, and really differentiate and provide the scaffolds that they need. In terms of other scaffolds, we have digital and physical copies available, and as well as varied forms of assessment. So I think with digital and physical copies, you really have to find the right balance for your students. And it's messy. At first, some of them might choose to use their device if you're in a one-to-one school. You may discover with them that it's not that easy for them to use their device, that they're still practicing that craft. So maybe you have to provide them with a paper copy as well. Maybe you're giving them paper copies of things and their binder is a disaster. Their folder is a mess. Maybe encourage them to use their device as well. Again, we said this before, you have to be comfortable with the fact that your students are not going to all have and be doing the same thing. So even for this presentation tonight, we have paper copies in front of us, we have the screen, we have it all because we learn differently and we have to recognize that so do our students. So I think being prepared with that is the most important. And also teaching students how to access those materials because we may have a modified item posted online or maybe something filled in that might help them with more supports and scaffolds. They never have to ask us for that because they know where it is, they know how to access it, and it also allows them to self-advocate. It allows them to learn, you know what? I might need a little more help with this. And I know where to go on Canvas to get that because we set that precedent for them early on. Setting early precedents is really important. I do want you to think about, though, it's March. We're halfway through now. So you can go into your classroom tomorrow and use that to your advantage. I'm sure most of us are in the middle of the third quarter, something like that, you can kind of take that and run with it for your students if your wheels are turning on some ideas that you might have. As far as varied forms of assessment, that's going to be so important. You have to give these students opportunities to do an individual recording. If you're looking to have some type of presentational assessment, great. Give me an individual recording. Maybe we're going to do speaking circle for interpersonal. Student ownership is so important, and kind of giving them some choice in what they do.
Yeah, the choice boards have really been key this year, just to be able to have the students, give the students the opportunity to choose how they want to present to us what they know. And especially with this idea that, we could go be in person one day and the next day we could be fully remote. So us being prepared and anticipating all the what ifs really helped us to kind of, I don't know, build just a thorough program for the students this year.
Absolutely. And again, we spoke to this earlier, but we have this set up every single day. This is what our students see. We do try to get different prompts and different questions that pertain to the day, to the unit.
But especially for this group of students, the routine is key.
It's key. Absolutely.
Without this routine, it really would take us more time to get going than.
Yeah. So give them the choice. They have a voice and a choice in our classroom. Would you like your materials digitally? Would you like them on paper? We have it ready to go every single day, both ways. It requires a lot of prep, of course, but once you get in the hang of doing both things, you will see such a difference for your students. It is really, I would say 50-50 in terms of how our students are working on their assignments. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much 50-50 in terms of who's using a Chromebook and who wants papers. For those who do want papers, we do try to color code them. So we'll categorize them, however they work, interpretive, interpersonal, presentational, whatever they are, we'll set up colors so that they can easily identify, okay, if it's interpretive, maybe I need this yellow page. Maybe I need this green page for my presentational activity that I'm going to be working on with my partner. So we do try to color code it for the ones who do want it that way. We also have, you might have seen on our tour before, we have these folders, which are kind of a game changer. So if maybe your school's not one-to-one, and this is something that you'd really use. We have these organizers and we've broken them down into days so the students can get whatever materials they want. Maybe they're having a tech issue. Maybe that day they're just not doing the Chromebook. Okay, they can self-advocate and go get what they'd like. As far as homework choice, we always try to be very flexible on our homework. If your students are going home and saying, I have no idea what this is or how to do it, you assigned the wrong thing. So you need to, I think, develop homework assignments that really just show the students that they practice. Show us what you can do. Maybe it's go home, create a voice memo of this interpretive reading that we gave you. You record it. Let's hear you say it. And a lot of times they'll do it and they'll be more comfortable in practicing because they're at home. They're in their bedroom. They're in their closet, wherever. Sometimes they're hiding, but that's okay. Just get them to practice, however it is. Maybe you're using Quizlet. Maybe you're assigning a different way. However it is, have them show that they practice. So if we're practicing some new terms, maybe some students will show up with flashcards. Sometimes students will come in and say, I studied with my mom. We were going back and forth and practicing and speaking. Great. You have to, again, be comfortable in knowing that everyone's going to have something different and it's not going to be as uniform as you might be used to.
Right. The flexibility on our end to accept what comes through the door and the flexibility and allowing them the flexibility to choose what they feel most confident doing. It really is what makes or breaks the classroom, I think, because we want them coming in being like, I'm proud of what I did and I want to continue moving forward.
Absolutely. And you have to, think about your goals. And I don't mean your learning targets, not identifying, not any of that. You need to think, what is your goal? How do you want your students to feel when they leave your classroom and come into your classroom? Do they feel comfortable trying to speak in another language? Do they feel like you're not going to get mad at them if they come in and say, I spoke to my mom, we did a few of these sentences, we went back and forth. No, it's okay. That's okay. So that's what you have to always keep in mind. What's the goal? What do you want them to truly get out of the course? Okay. Now, when you're teaching remotely and you're thinking about modifying, your materials, again, what are the key takeaways that you want them to have? If you're studying a unit on travel, right, like we're doing right now with our students, although, like we said, we have students available to come every day, we have large quarantines happening left and right. So
Is anybody else experiencing that? We are.
Yes. We both coach also, so we definitely understand how it is. So in terms of our travel unit, let's say, for example, every single day when we're modifying or creating these materials, we have to think, okay, what do we really want them to get out of this? So that's what you have to keep. Plan with the end in mind, of course. It's so true. Backwards planning is
The way to go.
the absolute way to go. And like we said before, are your students going to leave your class thinking, I don't know what we just did? Can't happen. We have to set it up so that they can leave saying, oh yeah, today I learned how to go up to a ticket window and greet the person and tell them
Where I'm going.
where I want to go. Great. Now tomorrow, our next goal for tomorrow, now I want you to try to ask your mom if you can buy a ticket in first class. Ask if you can switch trains at Barcelona, whatever it is. So adding on to the goal step by step is also really important. Having patience when you do that. Less is sometimes more. Think about your overarching themes. What are you trying to cover in these themes? And you can do a lot more with a lot less sometimes. You have to have the 4 Ps. You have to have your paper available. You have to be prepared. You have to post online ahead of time. And you have to have patience. When your students, when you're differentiating with your students, you're not dumbing anything down. Everybody gets what they need, but not everybody gets the same thing. And you have to really set that groundwork that that's okay. Especially if your students have a one-to-one device, I think that stigma of giving extra supports and extra scaffolds really goes away. And we are so fortunate to be teaching in 2021 when we have that opportunity to give discrete scaffolding. If I see that this student is clearly struggling, I can share something with him that he might need that might help him. I can draw a quick graphic organizer. You have to be ready to go on the spot.
And that's really what's been helpful with the co-teach really at the end of the day is if Trish notices that one student needs something, we could either switch roles and we just take over and we don't miss a beat. And I think that that's key for the students because it keeps them focused on the learning and less on what's happening, whether it's instructional support, if it's emotional support, all those things just come and go at the drop of a hat and we have to be ready to roll.
Absolutely. And I think if you're trying to kind of pilot some type of ICT program, just the amount of time that, sometimes Kristen will be supporting a student who's having an emotional episode in class, that would have been lost class time for the rest of our learners. It wouldn't be acceptable in algebra. It shouldn't be acceptable in language. So just, a lot of how we set it up, our classroom for our live students and our virtual students, a lot of it's actually the same. What I would say though is pre-posting your materials so that your learners at home, if they do want to print it or get them ahead of time, that's really, really important. I'm thinking of an 8th grader today that we have who's currently quarantining at home. She had pre-printed everything before class, so she was ready to go because that's how she learns best. She wants to see us like this, and she wants to write things down and listen and whatever. So, you know, I think you have to also really have a healthy balance, and that's, again, the parts you can increase your participation by setting that precedent that I'm going to call on Kristen in class, but then I'm also going to call on Tara, who's at home, and go back and forth as much as possible if you're in a hybrid classroom. It really shows them, everybody, that you're listening and paying attention to everyone.
The students really pick up if they're kind of being left out, and it makes them feel just uncomfortable. So finding that balance has been key. Also, too, one thing that I think we could advise everybody is if you are posting stuff, information, we have a feature on our LMS on Canvas to go to the student view. I would recommend that everybody always checks the student view, because things that we see on our end, they might not see on their end because we haven't published it, or we have, we put in the wrong link, and you're in the middle of trying to get things going, and all of a sudden you have students saying, excuse me, I can't access it, and then you have to stop what you're doing. So not only posting it ahead of time, but running through it from the student end of it really will help you save time in the classroom.
And something that I'm sure a lot of you use already is Quizlet, for example. If you go home and tell your students, show me that you studied on Quizlet, right? To us, okay, yeah, I know what that means. I can flip through my flashcards, I can play match, I can play scatter. Some of these learners need you to show them on the screen. This is our Canvas page setup, which again, you might have Google Classroom, you might have Schoology, it doesn't matter, it's all the same. So you might need to physically show them on the board as a group, this is where you can access the homework. This is our calendar. This is where we'd like you to submit. So you need to really show them exactly what you're looking for. You have to have super clear goals and expectations. So if, let's say, we had a practice Quizlet on March 1st, right? What that looks like is show us that you study. A lot of times we'll get, it's actually so funny, we'll get like a video sometimes of them like flipping through the flashcards, and they'll be like, hola, it's the cutest thing. And they'll submit that to us to show them that they went through. They might submit a score on a practice test that they took on there. And it's a great place for you to start if you're kind of stuck on how to differentiate materials. Take a look into Quizlet. There's a lot of really helpful, good features that you can
And one
use.
other thing too about what we've done with the students this year is to kind of help them self-advocate, as Trish said earlier. If they go on their grade portal and they're noticing that something's missing, we're telling them, well, you have access to the calendar. You can go back and see what you're missing for that day, and you can get it to us. We want to make sure that we're helping them develop to be students who are self-sufficient and self-reliant. And if we're constantly giving them things, we're not helping to do that. So,
Right.
And it also on the other side too, it helps us as teachers just keep an accurate record of everything we've done. So if you ever need that as like a backup, you have it right there ready to roll.
Absolutely. And this is an example of how we set it up. It's called modules in Canvas. It's kind of like overarching themes. You can make sub themes, however you want to do it. This is just one example of what it might look like. So again, it's really clear and concise for the students. They can easily find exactly what we're talking about and what we're looking at. And also just a quick note on the side. I don't know. Yes, grades. You can see grades right there on Canvas as well. We do really like the platform. We also, there's so many ways you can differentiate for your students and so many great platforms out there. We're exploring through Wayside right now as well. Wayside Publishing has some resources. They're digital. They actually sync up with Canvas. And there's also textbooks that have some really great strategies and make differentiation quite easy.
And help us navigate now through the 3 modes, which is what we have up here.
Exactly. Yes. So this is like a screenshot one that you'd probably want to think about a lot. So how do you incorporate the 3 modes? Interpersonal. You're going to brainstorm, like we said in the beginning of a unit, a travel unit. What kinds of stuff do you need to know if you're going to the train station? You need to know how to say the following things. Doing a speaking circle. We're going to scaffold it before, because remember, that's how you're going to engage learners with learning disabilities, is you have to give them the prompts that they need. Give them what they need to be successful, and they'll give it back to you. It's about setting them up to feel comfortable. Use games, use competitions. We love GimKit. If you haven't tried that out yet, that's definitely one to look at. There is a small fee for that one. I believe you can get a trial, but if that's not working for you, check out Blookit. That's a free one. Even something as simple as, we call it Olay, kind of like bingo. It becomes such an incredible interpretive activity where we'll give the students terms on a bingo board, and then it becomes interpretive because we'll give them clues. We don't say, how do you say ticket? Ticket. No, that's not what we're doing. We're describing the ticket. You know, it's what you need in order to get on your train. The word is passport. Maybe it's what you have to show to go through customs. We've done it with people, with historical figures, cultural items. And the kids love it. And our daily conversation. So you can really change up those prompts that we had on the board. You can do teacher of the day. You want to start with yourself. I think it should be led by you to start. And then of course you're going to move to the student led after they are comfortable with the procedures and how it works. And you can still take your data. As far as interpretive, as many authentic videos as you can. So we've been talking a lot about our travel unit, right? So we have quite a few train activities, authentic videos of different train items, and you can change your speed on YouTube as you might need. Multiple watches, let them watch it once. Jot down what you get out of that. Jot down anything that you heard. Then watch it as a class. You know, it's up to you to scaffold, pause. What'd they say? Where are they going? You know how to ask all of these questions. Having visual clues around the room, photo prompts, your anchor charts. Anchor charts are elementary, but they're awesome. There's nothing wrong with having the question words up in an anchor chart on the board for your students if that's what they need. If they're struggling every time you say donde, they can't figure it out, put it on a chart. No big deal. Let them use it as a reference. It's okay.
The more resources that we can provide to the students, the better the learning experience is for them. And then it really helps us to see that their progression, which is.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. For presentational, you know, show us what you know mentality, homework choice, voice and choice, giving them choice boards, and making everything that they're doing real life, right? A lot of students, you know, will always say like learning language is like actually like the most important class because you really need to know that. Yeah, it is really the most important. So again, we said making the daily conversations pertaining to current events, and current events doesn't have to be, you know, anything political or anything like that. It's not necessarily about that. It's current events as in like what's going on in the world right now? Like what's going on? How's the weather? Is there a storm that's impacting people locally, globally? What's going on? They're global citizens, and that's what you have to remember that you're teaching them. Just a few quick notes before we wrap up for tonight. Know your clientele. Think about the kids that you're dealing with. I have a cheat sheet of on my clipboard of all of their modifications that are required through their IEP. Remember, that's a legal document that you're bound to. So if you're giving a student assessments and you're not giving them their extra time or whatever modifications they might call for, you can be legally responsible for that, whether you're in an ICT program or not. Know the IEPs, understand them. And if you have questions, ask people. Special education teachers will help you to understand exactly what that means. You have to have patience with your students and your partner. You know, we've been at this for many years. It's such a learning experience. By now, we can literally finish each other's sentences. I could make a sound. I can go, ba 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 ba, and Miss Wilkens knows we're going to transition activities. You'll develop those cues over time. Think about your learning targets and goals, and remember your why. I got into teaching Spanish in special education because there were so many students. In fact, one of them being one of my own cousins who has autism was language exempt. And I said, that is such a shame. There's no need for him to be language exempt. We can make this happen. And it's up to everybody on this webinar tonight to advocate for your students. They deserve a special education program if that's what they need. And you can give that to them if you really work at it.
Well, that was if we had time.
Yeah, that was not gonna happen for us tonight. So we will we have a little survey. It's totally optional. We just kind of wanted to know, can we keep in touch with you? Do you want to keep in touch with us? Do you have questions for us? So Ms. Wilkens, did you put that in the,
Yep.
Ms. Wilkens?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, I know. It's how we refer to each other in
It's
class.
6:33
The
p.m.
presentation is in the chat, but I know that Jen said it will also be posted with the video on the NYSAWLA website. So
Exactly.
you can access our contact information there if you guys need anything.
Right. So real quick, I know everybody has so much to do. It's crazy. A lot of you have been sitting in front of a screen all day, much like us. Do you have any questions for us before we wrap up for tonight? Is there anything that we can do for you?
I know. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
in the
coming.
chat.
Oh, do we have anything?
No. They were just saying.
Okay, all right.
You know what I wanted to say? I wanted to thank you both for presenting. I'm Tara Tassani, the chair of Cold Spring Harbor Schools World Languages. Mil gracias to Trish and Kristen. I wanted to invite you all, if after this webinar you would like to possibly observe, I'm sure that Trish and Kristen would love for you to come see the program. I know that Ms. Nessfield was asking about that, if that would be a possibility, but I would open it up to any of you. And because I knew that Trish and Kristen would say, absolutely come. If, you know.
Thank you so much for opening your doors. I think fear keeps districts from doing this, and to have a program that's working successfully, just the action alone of letting them see that program work successfully might be helpful for some of our other districts to push that door open. So I thank you.
For sure. So thank you so much to Trish and Kristen. It was wonderful. Appreciate it. And to everyone for joining.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have an amazing Friday with your classes tomorrow.
And stay healthy.
Anyone have any other last questions? Okay. I want to thank sincerely on behalf of NYSAWLA, Trish and Kristen for joining us and for sharing some really useful information. I thank you. I know this is something that several of us in a lot of districts have talked about, and to see it working so successfully, it's you know, you're leading the pack for the rest of us, and I thank you.
Our pleasure. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having us
everybody.
tonight,
We
Jen.
appreciate your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.